So in this segment, we're going to be discussing the disastrous situation with the NHS at the moment, with patients being treated in corridors. This feels like one of the worst years of it, in terms of reporting, at least, that I've heard for a long time.
Yeah, it really was a very hard read, a 460-page report. Now, let me quote from it. This was from one nurse. We've had cardiac arrests in the corridor and cubicles blocked by patients on trolleys in front of them, delaying life-saving CPR. Despite these never events, we still are obliged to deliver care in the corridor. And this from another nurse. I had to change an incontinent, frail patient with dementia on the corridor by the vending machine. It was undignifying, she said. Felt so bad at the same time. It was my duty to deliver care. And that word, undignified, comes up time and again in this RCN report. People dying and not being discovered. I mean, actually, last week I reported on a patient who took their own life while in a corridor on a trolley. And
I don't know how what you would do to end up in a situation like that, or like how bad a situation has to be for you to do that, and also for kind of the healthcare workers and the person's family, like, to have to deal with that is maddening.
The fact is, this corridor care has become normalised. In this hospital, for instance, they've even gone so far as to put sockets along the wall so machines can be plugged in and patients can charge their phones. They're given bottles of water and sandwiches because they can't have trays. And we filmed this in the summer. And in fact, the RCN's General Secretary says they call it corridor care, but it's misleading, perhaps she says deliberately so, because the care is taking place not just in corridors, but in storerooms, as you said, in car parks, offices, even toilets.
And this goes back to a lack of beds and space. This is a problem that goes very far back, even under New Labour, where they got rid of a load of space, and then it goes even further to the Tories, because as we've had population increases, they haven't actually built the hospitals we needed. Boris Johnson famously talking about 40 new hospitals. Be lucky if we got 5 off that geezer.
Well, the government's promised to turn the NHS around, so how have they responded to this?
The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, said patients had been let down by the continued normalisation of corridor care and by ambulances taking hours to arrive. But he couldn't promise that there would be no treatment taking place in corridors next winter, and he admitted...
Well, that's... Okay, I hate Wes Streeting, but that's fair because, again, where's he going to magic the space from? Like, it's going to take a lot of investment. What they should have done is, done more in terms of generating tax revenue, and even, maybe potentially borrowed more money in order to fund new hospitals, because that would also generate growth for the economy in terms of, job creation and things like that. There were things they could do to kind of speed this up, but I don't know how long it takes to build a hospital. I imagine it would be at least 5 to 10 years minimum. So that I'm not really blaming him for, but they need to do something here. Maybe they can set up Nightingale hospitals, because the reason why those failed, I think, was predominantly due to staffing. So maybe that's a way out of this. But then where do you get the staff from? Is such a big, complex problem that we have right now, that there isn't a short-term fix for it. I think they need to surge kind of places, like for students and things like that, in terms of medical training, and see if they can get it running just as much as possible in order to train students so that they can become qualified here, and make it so they I don't know, have to work for the NHS for a certain amount of years, or make a program where if they work in the NHS for 5 to 10 years or whatever, any kind of debt they accrue is just written off. I don't know the best way to do it.
It is unsafe, it's undignified. And as you would expect, he also said it was a consequence of 14 years of failure on the NHS. Now, I think this is a gamble the government has been prepared to take, that the public, at least for this winter, will not blame Labour. But that is a short-term strategy, and you can probably only get away with it for maybe about 9 months.
Nah, I think they've got 2 years. I think they've got 2 years to do something fundamental about this and actually bring down the list. I in my opinion.
Or the accountability for these sort of scenes is placed firmly at the doors whose watch this falls on.
Yeah, I think something Labour needs to make sure is this stuff is a slow burn, and that the blame really should be on Jeremy Hunt and the goons, because he's the guy who went to war with the NHS over many years. But don't worry, guys, National security has no price tag, says Business Secretary Jay Reynolds. When asked Kay Burley how much the new deal with Ukraine will cost, he goes on to suggest that the deal will amount to £3 billion a year. So, money for one thing, not really the other thing. The NHS can really use that £3 billion. And, the fact that they always keep talking about growth. The UK economy grew for the first time in 3 months, expanding by 0.1% in November. Yes, let's go. Big dog time, fam. So, the idea that they're going to grow the economy in order to generate more money and use that money to invest is not going to work. It's the other way around. You need to invest the money to grow the economy. That's the only way it's really going to work. And that's something Labour just don't seem to understand at the moment. And so for me personally, I think it's going to take a lot longer for them to fix the NHS because they won't put the money in. They want to allocate the money for elsewhere or just not do what needs to be done. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.